Today we're diving into all the mods I've done to my Ford Bronco so far. This thing started as a pretty bare bones 2023 Black Diamond with the 7-speed manual, which actually makes it kind of unique now that you can only get the Black Diamond as a package. It was only stock for a few months before I started making it my own. I wanted something that not only looks good on the street, but also performs well on the trails. I've upgraded the lighting, the interior, beefed up the stands since it didn't come with the Sasquatch package, and a whole lot more. In this video, I'm walking you through every single mod, why I picked it, and what's awesome about it, as well as maybe a couple things that aren't my favorite. And I'll give you a quick take on each one. So let's get started. One of the first mods I did was actually these light up grill letters right here. I love the way they look, and they were not that expensive. They were pretty easy to put in as well. We just had to remove the grill and make sure that we lined up the wiring correctly. Now these are wired up to one of my aux switches on the inside, but they're really hard to find now, especially the ones that I got, because mine were an Amazon special for like $100. Now you have to buy the licensed product, which is about 3 times as much. The other thing is in the letters, they do have these black pieces right here that are not cutouts. They're actually just blacked out. The licensed one does have this fully cut out, making them different, but I love the way these look. At the same time I did the Bronco grill letters, I actually also did the Raptor style fog lights. Now I do love these. They do provide more light on early mornings through fog or even off-roading at night. I love that they also are connected to my aux switches, so they do switch from white to amber really easily. Another thing I also liked about these was that the modular front bumper looked a little empty without something in here, so I like that these filled up the space. If you're not a fan of the Raptor style look, they do have a variety of styles that you can actually fit in here to make it your own. One of my more recent installations have actually been these new headlights right here. Because my Bronco was a Black Diamond, it did not have the premium headlights with the full halo, but now I do have that, thank you to these headlights. Now we got these headlights from a company called Sunpie, however they're actually made by a company called Archaic. And what I will say is they're cheaper than the other alternatives, and they work just as well. I'm able to pop the hood and I'm able to unplug this one plug to go ahead and change it to amber if I want the more Raptor style, and plug it back in to go ahead and keep the white headlights. I did notice recently that the UV coating is starting to peel off now. That could easily be because we live in the desert where there's a lot of hot sun, but it is kind of a bummer that they only lasted about a year before that started to happen. The next upgrade we're going to talk about is my aux beam 32-inch light bar. Now before I had this light bar, I actually did have a brush guard across the front of my Bronco. I liked it for a little bit, but then the upkeep on it took too long and it unfortunately left rust on my front bumper. So we got rid of it and instead put in this light bar. What I love about this light bar is it does have 3 different light settings. It has a white DRL, an amber DRL, and a full light that I can use when I'm off-roading at night. All 3 of those are actually hooked up to my aux switches inside my Bronco. Now this specific aux beam light bar is unfortunately out of stock right now, but most 32-inch light bars should mount in a similar fashion. I also have added decals to my Bronco. Now my hood decal is a topographic print with a blue around the outside. We went with this because it matches the Black Diamond emblem, and honestly it was pretty easy to install and much cheaper than paying someone to do it for me. I also have this decal on the side right here, still sticking with the blue and black to match the Black Diamond emblem. This one was a little bit more difficult than the hood, but overall still easy and cheaper than paying a professional. I did go with this specific stripe pattern because I hadn't seen it on other Broncos and I wanted my Bronco to stick out. The decals are from a company called Rough Grounds. Now they do have a lot of different designs, so you really should go check them out. One of the biggest projects that we did on the Bronco was the suspension and then added on these bigger tires. Now I am running 35-inch Mastertrack RTs on my stock 17-inch Black Diamond steel wheels. Now, one thing to keep in mind is people were a little concerned about putting the 35s on the stock 17s. However, everything has worked out great. We've taken it off-roading and we have loved it. We went with the RTs because the mud terrains are a little bit loud and I didn't want more sound since I already drive basically a convertible. Usually when you go up to bigger tires, sometimes you can feel performance hit when you have a 4-cylinder like I do. I actually haven't felt any of that. I feel like it drives just like it did before, just taller and able to go over more obstacles. Now we did do a 2-inch lift with adjustable dampening up at the top. Now these have worked out really well off-road and I've enjoyed the lifted Bronco overall. The dampening is really nice and I can feel a difference. However, the one thing is this is actually unavailable right now online for whatever reason, but they do have a lot of different options for different suspension setups that you can get yourself. I also have these Raptor inspired running boards. Now, I actually love these, especially now that I lifted my Bronco, because they help me get into the Bronco since I'm super short. One thing is basically right after we put them on, I did take some trail damage down there, which is making it rust out there. That kind of sucks, but that's my own fault. One thing about these running boards is they're super easy to install. It's 3 bolts, you tighten it on your rock rails, and you're good to go. On the back of the Bronco, we did replace the rear bumper, and I have to say I love this bumper. It is a Baja tubular style bumper from Turn Off Road. It does have a higher clearance, so I'm not worried about hitting it on the floor, and honestly, I just love the way it makes it look. Now, with that new bumper, we didn't have a place to put our license plate, so we did do a license plate relocation kit, also from Turn Off Road. Now, this was pretty easy to install. It's very sturdy. It did require a little bit of wiring, but nothing too crazy. And honestly, I like the way this looks more than my zip ties. We also have new taillights back here. Now, I actually really love these taillights. These are sold by SunPie, but you can buy them on Amazon. They have 2 different colors. They have smoked and clear. I went with the smoked version because it matches all of the black elements to my Bronco. Now, what I love about this is that it is very unique. I have not seen another Bronco with this exact taillight, and that is because it's actually inspired off the Hummer EV, not off of a Bronco or Raptor. And I gotta say, I love them. I'm going to stick with them for as long as I can. Now, one of the first mods I did early on was actually these grab handles right here. Super functional and not that expensive. While it's not something that you can see from the outside, it has helped me get in and out of the vehicle. I do want 2 more for my rear for my passengers when we go off-roading. One of my favorite mods that I have done is actually this steering wheel cover right here. Now, this steering wheel cover is made with Alcantara as well as leather, and I was able to pick out the colors that I wanted, so you can see the blue peeking through the Alcantara as well as the blue line right up here and the blue stitching. Now, this is all for around $100, depending on the options that you choose for yourself. I love it because it's customized. It still feels really nice. And overall, the installation wasn't bad for me because I know how to sew. It took me about an hour. But if you don't know how to sew, it's still relatively easy. It's just going to take you a little bit longer. But I definitely love my steering wheel. Another touch point in the Bronco is these seat covers right here. Now, these seat covers are from Custom Interiors, and they do come in a few different options. You have black with stitching, brown with stitching, or all black, and you could also get a genuine leather option, whereas I have the synthetic leather option. Now, I do really like the way that these look because people are often surprised to find out that they are seat covers, and they do help to protect my actual seats in the Bronco. I love how easy they were to put on. However, the only thing to keep in mind is the rear seats, because we pull them down a lot for storage. They do slide off a lot, which requires us to put them back, and it does take a little bit of extra work. But overall, these are good seat covers. They look like brand new seats. Now, these are considered a more premium option at a price point about $500 for the synthetic and about $700 for the genuine leather. One of the biggest upgrades we did is we went from the 8-inch screen to the 12-inch screen. Took a lot of troubleshooting to get it to work at least to the functionality that it is now. And we ended up having to buy a 12-inch APIM, which is like the brain of the actual screen, because unfortunately our 8-inch APIM wasn't working properly with this screen. We did have to replace the entire dash piece with it, and overall that doesn't bother me because the only difference is that it says Ford Bronco instead of really just Bronco. That doesn't affect me, but for some people it might. They may not like it, which I can understand. One thing to keep in mind is if you don't want to work through all the troubleshooting steps, you may want to spend more money on an American-based product just because they are actually plug and play, whereas this guy was not plug and play. If I had to do this all over again, I would, because I love the 12-inch screen. I love the way it looks. It does work very well. The only thing to keep in mind, navigation doesn't work, but that's what Android Auto is for. And it turns off instantly when the car turns off because the way that we have it wired, but it works really well while driving, and I am super happy with it. One of the most talked about videos on our channel was actually when we did a sound upgrade for my Bronco. Now, what we did is we actually installed new speakers down in the kick panels, and we installed bigger speakers and bigger speaker pods in the rear. Now, we also installed a 10-inch sub as well. That's like a slim sub that's tucked up underneath the footwell. I understand it's not the ideal location, but it works great for us considering I do have a two-door Bronco with limited space. And we can definitely feel all of the bass now with that new sub, which I really like. Now, we did get a lot of critiques on that video, and one thing I want to mention is that was not really an audiophile upgrade. It was a budget upgrade that anybody could do, and honestly, I've noticed a difference in the sound quality with the top on and with the top off, so I'm super happy with it, and I would do it again. We also put in this USB hub right here. Now, it is great for extra charging ports for any of our guests sitting in the Bronco. In my honest opinion, I don't use this very often, so to me, I could go without it. However, I do know lots of people who do need extra ports for being able to charge, so if you're somebody that needs those, then absolutely do it if you have like a base level Bronco. But for me, it's one of those that I could go without. We do have a lot of videos about this next upgrade, which is actually a dash cam, which is up here. Now, honestly, there are so many different options when it comes to dash cams. As long as it's meeting your needs, that's what matters, because in today's day, it's important to have a dash cam to protect your vehicle and yourself. Now, this is an ambient light piece that goes across the bottom of the dash. Now, there's a few things I love about this and a few things I'm not so thrilled about. I love the ambient lighting and the fact that I could choose different colors super easily just by touching this button right here. One thing to keep in mind is that it does not fit perfectly here, which sometimes happens with aftermarket parts. You can actually see that it's popped off right here. We've tried everything we possibly can to make it fit. It just isn't gonna happen, which is okay because only I really noticed that. And I'm not gonna lie, the carbon fiber is not my favorite finish because of the fact that I have nothing else carbon fiber on the inside of my Bronco. So to me, this doesn't make sense. I would like it a lot more if it was a stock color, but overall, I love the fact that it gives me the ambient lighting that I like, and it actually also remembers the last color I have it on, so that way I don't have to go through all the colors every time I get into the Bronco. One of the more functional upgrades that we did is more interior lighting. The inside of the Bronco is very dark stock. So what we did is we actually added these dome lights right here that go above the two doors and then in the back above the two windows. It totally brightens up the inside of the Bronco, especially really when you need it. We also added a new dome light in the back, which is perfect for passengers, and it was actually a really easy installation, and it has a touch screen button to go ahead and turn it on and turn it off. I also added this rear cargo light right here, which adds a lot more light, especially when we're doing camping and we have the tent attached to the Bronco. We also added this tailgate table right here. Now, this is the actual Ford licensed tailgate table, and honestly, I like the way that it has the Bronco put in right here, and it's very sturdy. We use it quite a bit when we go off-roading. One thing to keep in mind though is it is a drill-in option. I think in the future, if I were to do it again, I probably would go with one that didn't have a drill-in option so I don't cause any damage to my tailgate. And this table itself rattled for quite a while until we figured out that we needed to tighten these guys up here. 2 years later, we figured it out, so now I can have a rattle-free ride. The way we tightened these is we just took a pair of pliers and really just pushed right here to pull this back, which creates more tension on the clip, preventing the table from moving as much. It's a much quieter ride, and honestly, I'm in love with this table more, and I'm gonna keep it on and keep using it. That wraps up all of the mods I've done to my Bronco so far. If you saw something you like, I've got links for all the products or similar ones in the video description down below, since some of these can be kind of hard to find. If you want to see how most of these were actually installed, click right here to check out the full Bronco mod playlist. And if you're into budget builds, off-road upgrades, or just love the Bronco, be sure to subscribe for more content coming your way, and we'll catch you on the next one. Bye, guys.